So now we have a number of panelists who are academics, and they are going to share with us their experiences and academic articles about the effects of the epidemics and disasters on occupational promotion and employment of people with disabilities. And I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Jaturong Punjarat Sunthorn, Chair of the Doctoral Program, Faculty of Social Work and Social Welfare, Wachio Chalumpangit University, to moderate the discussion with the panelists. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the MC. Good afternoon, everybody, from this conference room and participant from online. Welcome to the afternoon sessions, which will be the presentation from the call for paper of the conference. We are lucky to have totally 16 papers from 5 countries, but we, according to the limited time, we would have only 14 papers to be presented in this conference. The first group will be the paper, most of the paper from India, from the very interesting and well-known organization from India, the Enable India. So we are on the stage 5 of presenters from the Enable India, and we have the first presenter from India as well, but he will be present online. Before start the session, I would like to introduce a little bit my colleague. The first one on my right hand, Dr. Kamonpan Panpung. She will be the commentator, and so we have 5 presenters. As I said earlier, we have the second presenter will be, I'm not quite sure, please forgive me if I pronounce your name not correctly. Vaishnavi? Okay. Okay, that's yours, Vaishnavi. Okay. The third one, Anthony. Yeah, Anthony on the far right. And the fourth, the fifth one is Samala. Okay, Samala. And then the sixth, Kaviwasi. Okay. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your names correctly. And so we also have the online presentation from Japan, Mr. Hiroshi Masaoka from Japan. Okay, that's. Oh, we also have Lupa, lady. Sorry, Lupa. Okay. So, according to the limited time that we have only 2 hours for the presentation, because after our presentation we have another schedule, another agenda. So I'm trying to manage time to be finished within 2 hours. Altogether 7 papers. So each of you are given for 10 minutes for presentation. And my colleague, Dr. Kabonpan, would have each one would have 3 or 5 minutes for commentation. And I also ask everyone, if you have any questions, you can ask. But please be asked. I order you to ask only one questions or two questions for each presentation. Okay. So may I start with the first presentation from India? Mr. Rama Perumal. Rama Perumal. Okay, are you ready, Rama? Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, Rama. ทางฝ่ายเทคนิคช่วยดูนะครับว่าเข้ามาหรือยังครับยังไม่เข้ามานะครับรออีก1 นาทีถ้าหากว่าไม่มาเดี๋ยวเราจะไปคนที่2เลยนะครับเดี๋ยวฝ่ายเทคนิคช่วยส่งสัญญาณเข้ามาแล้วนะครับโอเคถ้าอย่างนั้นฝ่ายเทคนิคทางด้านควบคุมเรื่อง PowerPoint เตรียมความพร้อมสำหรับคนที่2ยังไม่มานะโอเคเพราะฉะนั้นโอเค I think I have to manage the time so I will start the presentation from the second person what shall we okay may I ask you to present your paper? Okay. So please listen to the presentation from Ramavi. Her paper, if you have this document, her paper is in the page 12. Page 12. Okay. Please start your presentation.
Hi everyone, my name is Vaishnavi. So I'm here to present my paper Disability and Inclusion at Corporates during the pandemic with a comprehensive one-stop solution, a social enterprise perspective. So back in early 2000s, can we move to the next slide? Do we have a remote? Next slide. Yeah.
Next slide, please.
Yeah. So back in the 2000s, disability inclusion was not seen in mainstream corporate employment. Most of the time, you would see a lot of persons with disabilities employed in government organizations, and that too under the quota system. So when Enable India Solutions started, it was one of the first hybrid entities where Enable India would work on the ground with persons with disabilities and their social circle, whereas Enable India Solutions would work with the corporates and cater to the demand side of it. So as of today, Enable India and Enable India Solutions together has opened up about 300 plus job roles for persons with disabilities. And during this journey, we realized that it's important that we build the ecosystem for persons with disabilities in organizations. It is equally important. It is as the same as providing a job, right? Whenever you're providing a job to a person with disability, the ecosystem has to also be built to look at it from a sustainability perspective. That is when Enable India Solutions offered various services to organizations, and we in 2016, when the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act was launched, it was launched in India in 2016, and it mandated certain things for corporate enterprises. So this actually helped us build stronger conversations with organizations. So it almost took us a decade to embark upon the services that we were providing. and help companies start their disability and inclusion journeys. DNI had become extremely active during this point of time, and there were actually leads being appointed in companies specifically for disability and inclusion. Earlier, you would see mostly HR people doing this job, but we could see that companies are taking up this initiative and actually having a separate point of contact for disability and inclusion. We could see a lot of opportunities that, were building up for persons with disabilities. And we really felt that at this point of time, we were at the top, like, at the tipping point. And in the year 2019-20, we had 70 plus engagements with corporates, with about 12 new companies actually starting their journey in disability and inclusion. And then in March 2020, we had an unwelcomed visitor, that was COVID-19. And at that point, we didn't know how to start conversations or restart conversations with corporates. We saw that most of the plans that we had made, we had done yearly plans with companies, and everything just stopped. Everybody were concentrating mainly on COVID relief. At this point, it just seemed to us that things were on a break, and a lot of scattered pieces, I could say. This was the time for us to actually take a pause and think how to go about this. We did not have to obviously start from the scratch, but we had to actually make sense and pick up the pieces and make some sense. All we knew at this point is that we have to go to the companies with something basic, understandable, and which is in their comfort zone. And the risk now was that the momentum that we had created in the last 20 years shouldn't be lost. And keeping that in mind, we introduced a framework called Incluza. It's like an inclusion pizza. All of you can imagine a pizza, right? It's about 8 slices, and it's a comprehensive one-stop solution for inclusion of persons with disabilities. And I will just quickly introduce each slice to you guys. So we start off with awareness. Obviously, awareness is the first step when it comes to disability and inclusion. So that is something that we started off with. Then we started off with accessibility. So accessibility it's basically creating barrier-free environment for everybody. So it can be from a digital perspective, from a physical perspective, or from a content perspective. And then comes messaging. So messaging is mostly sending out inclusive messaging when it comes to persons with disabilities, be it internal or any external communications that go out in a corporate. It has to be inclusive and the right terminology, the right tonality around disability inclusion. That is what we concentrated on this particular slide. Then comes policy. Like I said, Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act was introduced in 2016. And there were certain things that were mandated for corporates. So having an equal opportunity policy and reasonable accommodation specifically for persons with disability was one of the mandates for Indian companies. So we looked at it from this perspective in this particular slice. Then comes commitment. So we always say that disability inclusion works top down. So actually working with the top management of companies to bring in persons with disability into their workforce. And then comes community. It is building internal communities in a particular organization. So these are the people who will actually end up being inclusion champions when persons with disabilities actually join. And the next one is customer. Concentrating, actually having persons with disabilities in your target audience. So maybe you're a company that is providing products, that is actually creating products or services, having persons with disabilities and their social circle in your target audience. It's said that there is about 13 trillion purchasing power when it comes to persons with disabilities and their social circle. So concentrating on that bit. And then last but not the least, providing opportunities to persons with disabilities. I think that is our end goal. So it starts from basic providing an exposure to actually providing livelihood for persons with disabilities. So we went to corporates and we said that, these are the 8 ways in which you can think when it comes to disability and inclusion. Like I said before introducing this framework to you, the risk was that the momentum that we had built over the 2 decades should not be lost. And I think Inclusa actually helped us build or restart these conversations with companies. The comfort that Inclusa gave organizations was that you need not hire right away, but you can create that ecosystem so that you can hire persons with disabilities in the near future. At that point of time, hiring was a freeze, be it persons with disability or not. And once we introduced this, and it was a work from home situation at that point of time, so we took advantage of it. We actually created a lot of awareness activities, sensitization activities, and I think at that point of time, we were all working from home. We wanted to learn something new, and sign language was a big hit at that point of time. And we also saw that a lot of companies who had done accessibility audits, that is physical accessibility audits earlier, they actually started implementing these because of empty offices. So, and we also saw a lot of legal teams working on equal opportunity policies. So once we introduced Inclusa, we knew when these things were happening that people are building their ecosystem. And all the efforts were made keeping in mind the door open for employment of persons with disabilities. To make it easier for companies, and not only make it transactional, we actually divided the approach into phases where, and we always made sure that disability hiring was the North Star. So at every step, we kept telling our clients that, all this will make sense only if you hire persons with disability in the future or have persons with disability as a part of your workforce. So this also actually kept our internal teams motivated and helped them build the pool. And we actually saw this happening in a few months down the lane. We actually conducted virtual job drives, and it made sense because the supply and demand matched. And actually acceptance of work from home actually opened up a lot of opportunities for persons with disabilities. So the phase-wise approach I was talking about was the phase 1, where companies look at it from 2 perspectives. That is, the first one is the front of the house activities. That is what you're doing with your employees. That is any sensitization activities, community building activities, messaging, sending out the right messaging. And the back of the house activities is mostly your legal things, accessibility, policy. These were the things that we were looking at. And phase 2, like I again said, that we reiterated that it will lead to hiring persons with disabilities. And that is what phase 2 concentrated on. So what is the impact of Inclusa? If you see from the time we introduced Inclusa, we've had 130 plus engagements with 170 plus engagements with 50 plus companies, out of which 55% goes to providing opportunities for persons with disabilities. About 18% goes to creating awareness, and about 16% goes to creating barrier-free environment. So this particular presentation talks about managing disability and inclusion, during a disaster. That was the pandemic. But however, we realized that disability inclusion is not on the top of mind at any point of time. So it was important that we actually keep these conversations simple, and at any point of time, it has to be inside the comfort zone of a particular company. Keep it simple, understandable, and actionable for companies. And there actually lies value in a framework, and that's what Inclusa did. It actually helped us keep disability conversations alive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. So next, please go to our my colleague, Dr.
Yes, thank you. I give a comment for your work. I think can you, I think it's okay. Yes, I think. Thank you for your presentation. Actually, I'm lucky to be able to have the chance to read all the paper from Enable India, and some of you, I mean, some select work, all of good work, and very special that each work have a particular unique character. And your work mentioned about disability inclusion is not just about hiring of people with disability, but beyond that. And it's like a holistic approach. I really like that. I would like to ask you to explain more about how do you select the company to work with?
So most of the times, what happens is that the companies reach out to us and we see the intent in them. So we see if they are really willing to. So a lot of companies come and say that we just want to hire persons with disabilities. But then there are certain companies who say that we want to hire persons with disabilities, but we want to know what is there beyond that. So these are the companies that who really want to make this effort into hiring persons with disabilities. And that is one of the case studies I've even mentioned in my paper.
Okay, thank you. So it's really like people walk in and you catch the requirement of them and then provide the inclusive approach. Yes, thank you. Yeah, madam.
Oh, okay.
And how about the floor? Do you have maybe
Okay.
one question?
Yes. So we still have a few minutes for the floor. If you have any questions, you can ask, but keep it in concise questions. Any questions from the floor? Okay, the president, please use the microphone.
Yes, I'm asking the question, Deepesh here. The question, Vaishnavi, is when you said that the companies come to us, I think, do you work with networks like India Business Disability Network, which Graham spoke about?
Right.
How do you reach out to networks of companies and all that? So if you can just elaborate on that, it will be helpful.
Yeah. So most of the times when a group company or something like an IBDN or NASCOM Foundation, these are the organizations that have companies already in their network. So maybe we go through a campaign or something called, we worked for something called Valuable 500, where it was a global movement of having disability on board agenda. So we reached out to companies and we had about 20 signups from India. So these are some of the proactive things that we do at Enable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you for bringing that perspective, Victor.
Okay, thank you. So may I come back to Lama? No, he's not in. Okay, so we go on. Next, we're going to the third. No, the third. Lupa, ready? Are you ready to present? Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I'm so happy to be here. To be frank, and I'm very nervous. I mean, this is my first presentation, like a international conference presentation, but definitely, I don't know how much I'll follow my PPT today, but definitely I'm here to share my experiences is what I'm here today. And to start with it, I think I'll just skip all these things, but this is what my organization has taught me. One of the values, I mean, there are like values. There are many values which we have learned from Enable India. I think the best values which I have still today, which I make it and follow it, is that be honest to yourself and others, which is what I'm trying to be today, and believe in the potential of others and in you, which again, I'm here to make sure that yes, I believed in and I know I'll do my best. Another one is just learn from every moment, which I'm just doing it right now, and fill every action with love and joyful. So I'm all ready to enjoy and learn each and every moment. So this is what our Enable India values, which we have learned it. And yes, there's a picture which actually a diverse group of people and with a lot of potential and passionate people who are here. And with this values and keeping these values in mind, we actually work with persons with disability. And we've been working, our organization has been working from like 23 years of experience, grassroots level experience, and we've been working with 19 plus persons with disabilities. And with all our works, we've been able to reach out to more than 350,000 lives, which actually includes 60% of them as persons with disability, and the remaining is actually the stakeholders, because we also believe in working collectively. That's something one. And definitely when I say stakeholders, so we have worked with more than 726 companies and opened up more than 380 plus job roles. There are a lot of things like in 38 sectors across locations and all of that. It's because of all the partner organizations and all this collective efforts from all of us. And we are in different countries, and that's why we are here as well. And where is this? Yeah, sorry. And also I know like we're also board member, and also we have our president as well, like our own Deepesh, like who's been part of Workability Asia and International as well. And we've also been part of government body member of National Skill Council of PWD. And another thing is we've also co-initiated Disability NGO Allies. Basically, it's a 140 plus members, and maybe I can say the different organizations coming in together. The formation is something I can say it's one of the largest in the country which you have done. And definitely this is something which I want to share. I'm so proud to be part of this organization because it's a great place to work. We have been certified that, and we've got many more awards as well. This is a brief about our organization. With this, I want to start off. Today's presentation is all about the jobs that were created for persons with disability during the disruptive world. I think pandemic was not easy for everyone across the world, what I want to say. Yes, even in India, we also had a lot of challenges, like life in India during pandemic. Yes, helplessness, hunger, actually missing of loved ones, just going around, don't have the right places to stay, feeling of helpless, like hunger, and then left out, a lot of things, emotionally drained and all of that. I'm sure that each one of us could connect here, like how those days were. So if you imagine life in India during pandemic and life of everybody during pandemic, this emotions, can you imagine what will be the life of a person with disability during pandemic? Definitely there were a lot of challenges. Challenges in terms of access to essential needs like same food, disability, clothing, shelter, and a lot of challenges with respect to caregivers. And there were a lot of challenges with getting a medical cares and medical health on time, or actually a lot of abusers, like physical abusers, mentally challenges. There are a lot of things the person with disability has to go through during pandemic as well, like any of us. But here, I would want to talk about one story where Soundarya, who's actually a breadwinner, persons with disability who have been a breadwinner during pandemic. And this is what she has to say, that I supported my education and also my family during pandemic. So we have Soundarya, who's a person with low vision. She's a student. Basically, she She was doing her 12th standard. She was doing her 12th standard, and father and mother has to lose a job because of pandemic. They could not travel and all of that. So that's when they said, okay, now what do we do? But she became that, like she actually learned this car washing thing, and she became the car mask seller and all of that. And she she's self-employed, and this is what her story. But how did she do it? Here, the different stakeholders who came into picture. If I go a little deeper into Soundarya's journey, Soundarya's father was a person with mental illness who was actually not going to any work. But when it comes to mother, who was actually who was a housemaid and going to different places to do the work. But due to pandemic, as usual, she lost the job. But Soundarya was at home and doing her 12th standard, like sitting at home. But she got to know about an NGO, which is Enable India, one of the NGOs. She got to know from our colleague, basically from our neighbor friend, who's another PWD, who got to know about NGO. She got an awareness about this NGO, and post that, once she reached NGO, she got an access to a lot of information, where she was part of a lot of career awareness workshops. She was actually where the parents were also part of enablement workshops, like parents workshops and all of that. And she was part of job readiness and all of that. With this, actually, she could aspire that, oh, yes, there are opportunities for persons with disabilities. There are ways that I can also still build my career. Still dream and continue my education. That's what happened. And with this, there was constant actions were taken by Soundarya. Like she actually sold masks, where we had one of the company actually coming to us, like Wildcraft, which came to us, and there was an opportunity was created to sell masks during pandemic. And she actually sold masks along with her mother, learned the car washing techniques, basically this car washing thing, where we created a WhatsApp training, WhatsApp material in the training materials in the WhatsApp, and we sent all the training materials in the WhatsApps. That's when Soundarya, along with the father, was able to learn car washing. And we know, like, in every street now, if you see, in every street you see a car. At least in India, what I'm seeing is, if you go to one gully or one street, you at least find 1 or 2 cars in a lane. And what if a person with disability gets to access and gets to clean? Because every day you have to clean and earn money. I think keeping that as one of the model, this training was done, and she was part of it. And finally, what she could achieve herself, she could actually continue her education, because she could get money with her selling masks and all of that, and also doing this car washing and all of that. She could actually self-sustain, like continue her education and also support her family. So I've just put one photo where how Soundarya was and her parents were actually part of different activities, different engagement activities, enablement activities which happened for her. I've just shared few photos there. And like Soundarya, we also had another person where actually he said that I could leverage my existing resources and lead a peaceful life. So here we have Rangappa, who had a garden in his house, like Jasmine class, which we see actually in modern India. He had a very small garden house. Because of pandemic, he has to lose his job. But what he did is, we actually had, through our mobile-based community platform, which is called Enable Vani, where through he got in touch with different PWDs, and he got connected to different PWDs, and there he got an idea that why not I can actually use the garden in my area, and then I'd start selling flowers to my nearby places. And that's how he could actually use the existing resources, whatever he had, and he could sell it, and that's how he could lead his life. So here again, we had NGOs, we had parents, we had families, everybody came into picture. And here the main role which was played by this Enable Vani, which I told, the mobile-based community platform. So this is a brief about that. So this is a mobile-based number, and there are few numbers, and you can actually log into www.enableindia.org, and you can actually look into Enable Vani. That's when you will get to know about this campaign page. So it's actually for the community and run by the community as well. And the next is another one last example which I want to say is like another person who said, by leveraging my existing skills, I gave 2 meals a day to my family in pandemic. This is who is actually Suresh, who's a person with physical disability. He actually was an auto driver, and you know, auto driver is a 3-wheeler transport which you use it in India, which is used for the public transport and all. But because of pandemic, people are not moving around. He was not able to use that, but he actually used this auto to sell masks because that was a need. So he sold his masks and he could actually earn money. And again, the Wildcraft campaign was came into from the company which worked with Enable India as well. So again, here different stakeholders we come into picture. So with this, what I want to say, here are a few pictures, a few examples of people who are part of this Wildcraft campaign. And if you see here I think parents were part of it, and the people in the communities were part of it. There were different stakeholders were part of this campaign as well. So with this, what I want to say is like this, there were many gig jobs were created because of the need. And here, the entire ecosystem were part of it. Like in every example, if you see Soundarya's, Rangapas, or Suresh examples, if you see in everything, the stakeholders played a huge role. I think in the previous presenter, before our lunch, when ma'am was talking about, like PWD became the bridge, basically with different stakeholders. So I think here also PWDs actually play that role, and the different stakeholders actually played very important role here. So how did this happen? Definitely, as I said, if you see it, as per our landscape in 2016, only like 26% of people were employed, but definitely during COVID, there was unemployment rate actually increased to 41%. It not only for PWDs, I think it went on for non-PWDs as well. And if you see the employment loss, it was more. Okay. Okay. Not only PWD, I mean, employment loss was for more than rural people as well. And if you see, because it actually affected the unorganized sectors, basically the street vendors who are actually migrant workers and all of that. And why did this happen? Because the unorganized job sectors actually was at little less technology, or mostly they have to go to workplace and do it. There is nothing like a work from home option you had it. For that, the only thing to do was to co-create the opportunities or leverage the limited opportunities what we had. Like what happened with Soundarya and what happened with Rangappa. Like they looked into the existing opportunities and then they did it with the help of the ecosystem. That's what happened. And with this, what I want to conclude here is, definitely, PWDs will actually gain awareness on opportunities, access to information, build their aspirations to take actions and achieve goals, because the stakeholders actually play a different role. Because when a PWD is associated with different stakeholders, they'll help to take actions constantly and build on that and start actually creating sustainable livelihoods for the person. And for that, our approach was, this was a 5-way approach. We had showed it, and I showed it through Soundarya's case, how our 5-way approach was used to enabling ecosystem to have a sustainable livelihoods. And this 5-way approach was used. It was a tried and tested model that we did it for all disabilities. It was just not for one disabilities, but we saw how this constant taking actions or that systematic approach would help a PWD to actually have a sustainable livelihoods. This is what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting, the 5A approach. So may I ask Dr. Kabonpan to make your observation, please.
The interesting for this work is about gig work, that you raise the small business or even one person, which is maybe quite flexible. No? And I think it's very creative because you have to work against the time in the pandemic, and the crisis is sudden event. So very clever that you can make this, I mean, getting people when they think about themselves and create the new work in a very short time period. So it's very, very good. May I ask about, please give some example of technology that has been used, because it's a small business. Like in Thailand, they use a lot of some social media, very easy and not very complex technology. And how about your case?
Yeah, I mean, the technology part we use. Actually, when you say wildcraft campaign, when we did, we actually initially thought this wildcraft campaign is selling of a mask. We thought, oh, it's actually more of a manual, you don't need a technology. But the more work is, we had our stalls across. The candidate, I mean, the persons with disability can actually go and set up his own stalls. Like I showed it few pictures where the candidate was had set up the stalls wherever they wanted. But the thing is, every day the persons with disability has to go to the wildcraft station and collect the mask. And every day there is an update that needs to be done on a phone. So there is a little bit of technology was used that the person has to get trained. And that's what has happened during the training time. Before even a candidate was assigned to sell a mask, there was a training was done by the company as well as the NGO as well. So that to equip the candidate on what is the technology, the little technology that the person has to be equipped and to do it. And which was able to do, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, very, very interesting your approach, approach, starting from awareness, and then end it at achievement. So on the halfway of your as 5A approach, I think aspiration is very important, isn't it? Yeah. If
Yes.
you cannot aspire or empower the PWE, so even you start a very good start, but at the pathway, at the halfway of this aspiration, if you cannot do this, they will not go on up to the end of the achievement.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have to be in hurry because we take already almost 1 hour, so we can have only 2 presentations. So the next presentation will be Anthony. Anthony, please, your turn.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anthony from India, from Enable India. Our organization has spent 240 years. Sorry, our organization has spent 23 years. I spent 10 years in the field, 240 hours of preparation, thanks to sir, and just 24 hours of travel to share one of the best practices, which called as Swashakti, which means self-power, building a sustainable ecosystem for creating livelihood opportunities for persons with disability in rural India, and how it became a backbone of PWD's life during the pandemic. So our model will address the challenges in disability sector scenario, PWD scenario, person with disability scenario, and the enabler scenario, different stakeholders and the organizations. So what is disability sector scenario? So we all aware of that. The disaggregated ecosystem is one of the major challenges in the sector due to the gap between the service providers and the service receivers, as well as the connect and the network between the different stakeholders also is the major challenge, which causes delay in the development of PWDs in all the stages of their life cycle. So we'll talk about the life cycle of PWDs, early intervention, education, skilling and rehabilitation, the government system, employers, the livelihoods, the different life cycle stages are there. So the you can see for visually impaired friends, just you can imagine, there are different type of stakeholders are in the slide. The PWDs also is there, but they are in their own space. Because maximum organizations, they are working in silos. Only few organizations working for livelihoods for PWDs, and lack of system and lack of network between themselves. We'll talk about PWD scenario. The scenario for PWD and non-PWD is not totally easy. When compared with PWD and non-PWD, the additional challenges is more. As per Indian Act, the Rights of Person with Disability Act 2016, we have 21 type of disabilities. The types and the severity of disability also will add the additional challenges. So what is enabler scenario? So based on our experience, the 25 years old organization were working for deaf education, experts in deaf education. Their situation was, the livelihood for PWD is hard. How do we build confidence in Hall? I have too much to do because they have very less focus on livelihoods, no capacity builds, lack of disability professionals, and no proven model to replicate across, and limited awareness and the confidence. So what is our model? Our model is built on insight. The insight of impact is highest when the ecosystem works together for solutions. Find the enablers and strengthen the value of all the resources rather than working alone. And person with disabilities are co-creator and problem solver and have agency to choose and make decision for themselves. So how our model will address the disability sector scenario, the disaggregated ecosystems. So for that, we always already, our colleagues have mentioned that we always believe in the potential of everyone. So we'll have the collaboration with the different partners. So with the help of partner, we'll set up the Garse centers. Garse is Hindi word, which means with pride. With the help of partner, we'll set up the Garse centers across in rural places. First, it connects and build the network between the different service providers or different stakeholders. Second, it connects the PWD or service receiver, whatever we are calling. Second, it connects the PWD into the established ecosystem. So that's what you are seeing in the image. For visually impaired friend, so in the beginning, I mentioned that there are different type of stakeholders are there, but they are in the own space. So here, there is a circle which connected the PWD, which connected the different stakeholders in one line. Then after that, in between, in middle, there is a PWD. The PWD also connected with the established ecosystem. By working together, build capacity and build confidence, and networking each other, build assets or model together. So which connects all the stages of PWD's life cycle, starting from early intervention to livelihoods and the social network platform. So our Shivashakti's Garse Center model will connect and build the network between the different type of stakeholders, and it connects the PWDs into the established ecosystem also. So what is our ecosystem building process? Actually, we have 8 steps process. First one is with the help of partner, we'll set up the Garse Center. Then the Garse Center or partner organization will form the village level, the grassroots level committees. The committee will have the different type of stakeholders, including government and non-government officials. Then the committee will recommend the candidates, person with a disability, for data collection and sourcing. Then the 4th steps, we have a pre-training workshop in the name of Margadarshi. I will explain in detail. Then we have the district level, the ecosystem creation in the name of inclusive group formation. Then we have skilling, general entrepreneurship development program, and wage employment training program. So a training component will come in the 6th place. Then 7th, after the training, we'll have 6-month post-training support to initiate the livelihood activities. Then we'll have 2 years of post-placement support to retain the livelihood activities. So how this, our 8 steps process, ecosystem building process, address the challenges of PWD and the enabler scenario. I would like to share one small case study of Gangamma, a person with physical disability. She is a floor walker who had lack of agency. She always think that I can't walk, I can't take decision. I'm depending on my mother only always. I can't speak for myself. I don't know my future. So what job I will get? Am I useful to my family or not? So how do I come out of my home or my community? So what is Gangama's ecosystem? Gangama's journey in this ecosystem process. So Enable India, through this Swashakti Services Center program, we have identified the potential partner where the value matches. So there we have set up, built in one phase. The second phase, the operate phase. Third one is the transfer and sustain stage. So where our partner organization also will learn this 8 steps process. And after a certain period of time, independently they will lead the livelihood activities in their own geography. So the Garse Center, after identification of Garse Center, the Garse Center has formed the village level committees in the rural village, one of the village in India. The committee members, which includes the school HM, bankers, local youth club members, self-help groups members, the different type of stakeholders have formed in the group as a support system in the grassroots level. They have recommended the person with disabilities along with Gangamma. The Gangamma waited 32 years to get the first training and the livelihood opportunities. So the committee felt that she is the right person to get the first opportunity from their side. So the committee has recommended Gangamma to get the skilling and livelihood opportunities. Gangamma has attended the Margadarshi workshop, the pre-training workshop with her mother. So who had lack of agency, she got chance to choose and make decision for her life. During the Margadarshi workshop, she has filled the self-assessment tool called My Path. In Indian language, it's an Amma Marga. So she has chosen the self-employment opportunity is the better livelihood for me based on my interest and eligibility. So then we have connected her into the district level support system. So one of the Rotary Club member has taken responsibility to mentor her regularly. Then she has completed 10 days of entrepreneurship development program. So after completion of the 10 days of entrepreneurship program, she learned disability component as well as the self-employment domain aspects. Then in the committee, the local level, grassroots level committee and the district level committees, the Rotary members as guided to initiate the petty shop. In India, we have the 5% Panchayat schemes, 3 to 5% Panchayat schemes to provide for PWDs to initiate and support for the livelihood activities. So the committee has sanctioned 30,000 rupees in Indian money to set up her business. Then after the 6 months, she had another 2 more small business unit called cattle rearing as well as dairy product sales. So during the pandemic, actually she lost her hope. Actually, she had planned to drop her business, but the grassroots level committee and the Rotary Club members has given moral, financial, as well as the material support to retain her business. Now she is successfully running the 3 different business in her own village, and she is earning 40,000 rupees in Indian money as a profit. So after this learning and experience, the Gangamma has guided her own sister, one younger sister called Gauramma. She is also a person with physical disability, floor walker, to set up one more candy shop in the local government school. So like that, in our ecosystem building process as foundation phase, the impact phase, and the sustainable phase. So I'll talk about Gangamma. These are the Gangamma's ecosystem: bank, mentor, the rehabilitation centers, government, employers, livelihood providers, the skill trainings providers. First, the Gangamma's, we'll talk about Gangamma's ecosystem. The ecosystem, the different type of service providers or the stakeholders also connected among themselves. Then the Gangamma also connected with the established ecosystem. So that's why the Gangamma is able to she is able to become a successful entrepreneur and role model in the community. Same like Gangamma, there are 3,000 persons with disabilities Same like Gangamma, there are 3,000 persons with disabilities got connected into the established ecosystem and they're retained in their business during the pandemic time. Sir, PP. Yeah, thanks. So after developing Gangamma, our partner organization, the enabler organization, the enabler situation also changed. Now the situation is we have the capacity and the tool. It's easy for us. We have built the local role models like Gangamma to inspire other PWDs to bring them into the mainstream activities. So we have many stakeholders. I'm not alone in the field. We have many stakeholders who can help. So our Swashakti's Garse model, internalizing the lead with livelihood practices with the rural NGOs. So what is the major impact of building a sustainable ecosystem? By leveraging the local partnership, working with different type of stakeholders, steering the livelihood narratives, like providing different kind of livelihood opportunities, self-employment, wage employment, and local other. We have MG Narega, which providing 100 days employment guarantees scheme for the rural BPL card holder. So that's also PW inclusion happening in India with the help of our DevSay centers. So right now there are 21 type of stakeholders are in the ecosystem. So we'll talk about Gangamma's ecosystem. There are 21 type of stakeholders are aligned and contributed. So same like that, we have 21 type of stakeholders are doing the lot of connections and referrals. So one of the best example is, so just you can imagine, so if anybody is providing diaper to anybody, so what impact you can imagine? Or anybody is receiving the diaper, napkin. So what impact you can imagine? A person with spinal cord injury who discontinued his education because of that health hygienic issue, because of his financial status, he was not able to buy the diaper regularly. So because of that, the person got dropped from school. One of our committee members, the local support system, has given the recommendation letter to the local government hospital, the primary healthcare center, to provide the diaper, which enabled him to continue the education and complete the education also. Right now, he is working in the supermarket. So this is the same like that. There are a lot of referrals and recommendations are happening to provide assistive aids, education, skilling, and jobs. 97 different type of self-employment job roles identified in the rural India, and it's engaged by different type of different kinds of disabilities. A lot of financial and resource linkages happening. Supports for PWD's marriage, supports for availing government schemes and benefits, connecting into the social network platform, the community-driven platform. What Rupa ma'am has mentioned about Namavani, Enable Vani. So 68 wage employment job roles identified in the rural India and is successfully performed by persons with disabilities. So during the pandemic, also all the referrals and recommendations that happen. Hence, every PWD benefits, trust in the enabler is built. So that's what we have seen in the pandemic time also. In Indian money, 10 million worth material got generated by the ecosystem alone. So we are, our partner organization or enablement are not in the place due to the very strict lockdown restriction. So they have generated 10 million worth material and it got distributed to 2,500 persons with disabilities to retain our livelihood activities and to continue their job in the companies also. With help of the ecosystem, 1 lakh person with disabilities and their immediate family members got vaccinated. So these are the few photos of how ecosystem has supported during the pandemic time, the resource linkages, the goat distribution, the 1 unit of goat distribution for the person with disabilities. And during the pandemic, who lost his saloon business, the person again is rebuilt, reconstructed with help of ecosystem. It's 1.5 lakhs worth material as given by the local stakeholders. It's fully solar based beauty parlor, spa, saloon. So the person who is the PW who is doing the vegetable vending in the footpath to full cart, the financial linkages, check distribution to retain their business in the grassroots level. Then the COVID vaccination for severe PWDs at their home, and the food kit and material kit distribution for the PWDs. And based on this learning and experience, we have started in 1 district of 1 state, and we have scaled it to 1 state. Right now, we are in 7 states of India, and we have planned to scale across the nation as well as the globe. So our model, Shashakti's Garse Center model, is not only building an ecosystem, but also creating a community ownership to build a next generation of nation builder. Thank you.
I do not have the question. You very good storyteller and clear, understand well. I just want to say that I like the integrative approach, and you look at all stakeholders and drawing up the step by step.
Yes,
And I like the 2 years post-settlement support.
yes.
We follow 6 months and 2 years. And the special thing I like is about the training. The training, if you read the paper, you said about self-development. It's not only self-development for normal development, but self-development towards disability aspect, which is very important for a person with disability when they face with the environment in work. So that's my comment now.
Okay, thank you. So the paper of Anthony is, I think, is a good example of the tacit knowledge. You draw up your lesson learned from your practice, your best practice, step by step. That is good. That is very good example of the paper. Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you,
Anthony. Okay, so as I said, we have to hurry up because this is already 10 past 2. So we have only 50 minutes for 3 papers. So next paper will be Samara paper. Please. Yeah, take
Thank you.
your
That's no
time.
pressure at all.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Samara. I'm representing Enable India here. I've been working for the past 7-8 years in the space of disability livelihoods. And that's one of the reasons, I've been working very closely with companies in trying to create opportunities for people with disabilities. Out of that selfishness, I think that's where my paper also came in. So COVID came in, it really changed the landscape. It changed lives of many people. It was unpredictable. We really did not know what to expect. And I think opportunities really took a hit for people with disabilities. It took a hit for everyone. But to be honest, I think certain sections of marginalized population were the, bore the brunt with much more severity. So my paper focuses on how did we navigate this existing situation? What opportunities did we create? And how did we do it? And what did we learn from it? So that's a little introduction. So let me quickly move on. All right. I think pretty eminent speakers have come in and spoken about the context of disability. And I think I'd skip this part for now. But coming down to COVID and ground realities, right? What really happened? The first thing in April 2019, when the lockdown hit, what we really saw was a lot of chaos, unpredictability. My colleague Rupa touched upon a lot of these problem statements from a candidate lens. Let me speak from an employer lens. So for organizations who were looking to sustain their business, where they did not know what tomorrow is going to bring, suddenly overnight, everything turned into a virtual environment. You had to sustain and make sure inclusion happened for every employee in the company and not just a person with disability. That brought in a lot of unpredictability and chaos. What it also brought in was a hiring freeze, because how do you go about and hire people with disabilities? What selection process do you follow, right? Layoffs were pretty eminent. When I say layoffs, a lot of people got laid off, not only persons with disabilities, but generally the first to go was a person with disability. Why? There was always an assumption that it's going to be difficult to include a person with disability. How are they going to be productive in a virtual environment? Inclusion, certainly, how do you include? So small questions like how do you include a deaf person in a meeting in a virtual setting? Right? So these are, hard-hitting ground realities. So what did we do first? What was our first response? Because honestly, we didn't know anything any better, right? We were in this situation for the very first time too. What we could start with was what we knew, and we started with a listening ear. I think it was very important to turn to employers who were critical stakeholders in the journey of, a PWD succeeding, right? So it's important to understand where they are and what challenges they are facing. So it was about giving them a listening ear. It was about helping them through retention services. And what I mean by retention services is to ensure that they are able to retain the employees with disability that they already have. The other thing was about building confidence amongst employers. It was a new situation. Everybody had doubts. And it was important to help them through appreciative inquiry, help them through looking at the positive, help them through understanding or looking at different solutions, right? So, and how do we also provide support through inclusion services and customized inclusion services, right? So that's a little bit about ground realities. What did we learn from employers? I think there were some hard-hitting questions that we came across. A complete employer perspective in terms of a virtual workspace. How do I include a person with disability? Do I have the resources or the reasonable accommodation to be able to provide or cater to the needs of a person with disability? What's the changing demand? What's the need for skilling? So automation was already happening but when COVID hit, automation just rapidly escalated and many jobs changed overnight. The needs of the skill changed overnight. So we remember working on processes and with employers where there were 20, 30 people with hearing impairment losing jobs overnight because the process could no longer continue. And those were real challenges. So exactly, process is automated. So how do I retain my employee, right? What jobs do I hire for employers who are looking to hire still? What jobs do they start with? As Rupa also mentioned that a lot of blue-collar jobs were difficult. It was not happening because everything was under a lockdown. Even on skilled jobs, skilling became a challenge. So how do you navigate that space? Hiring practices changed. So how do you even interview a person with disability? How do you interview a person who is deaf in a virtual environment or a person with vision impairment? So these were real challenges that employers brought up. I think the most important thing here working with employers was to understand the space they were coming from, work with them to co-create solutions. So how did we really do that? How did we influence employers to co-create opportunities with the existing challenges? So we followed a framework, a model called LORDS. Let me explain what that is. So one was understanding the landscape or understanding the situation. Every employer was different. COVID brought in certain challenges, but what could be the opportunity in that situation, right? Create a level playing field. So how do you create accessibility for any person with disability who wants to come in and apply for a particular job? Create opportunities according to the environment. Use technology and solutions. I think Rupa gave a wonderful example again. I'm quoting her because she's coming from the candidate side. Wildcraft used technology to open the role up across disabilities. And that's something, that comes under this, that's how we work with employers basically. Building systems for scale. So not just looking at a one-time opportunity, but how do you scale it? How can you create a model which is scalable? And ensuring sustainability. The intention is that ultimately after hiring also a person with disability sustains. And that's the most important thing. So just giving a couple of examples, I think I won't go through Wildcraft in detail because that's something that Rupa touched upon, but opportunity creation through alternative models, that's something we tried with when we first had conversations with Wildcraft. I think it was important to understand, okay, so what is going to work in a situation where everything is under lockdown? What is in demand? And what is the business of this organization? That's where, the idea of building masks and selling masks came in to make sure that candidates were on ground and, the turnaround time was very limited because that's business, right? You need to give that business sense to a company. So that's where a blended training model came in, where employability along with domain training from the company for a limited duration of a few days. That's the turnaround time we looked at. We used technology to, so payment gateways, which were from your mobile phones. Easy technology, but nevertheless using such solutions to make it accessible. Opportunity across disabilities, across, let's say, the type of candidates who could apply, because it did not bind people to educational qualifications or any particular location as such. So those were things that we could leverage. And flexibility in qualification, location. So I think I just mentioned that. All right. There's another one that I would like to talk about. Another alternate model was working with a company called Wipro. Here, so Wipro has always been an organization that looks at hiring people with disabilities. So why is this so special? Right? So one, I think the employer was facing the same challenge during the pandemic. How do we do this virtually? Two, the skill that they were looking for was also something that was, difficult to find, owing to the nature of skilling and exposure for a person with disability. So how did we tackle it? We kind of blended certain models. So there was a self-learning module along with a mentorship and online training, which was provided by the company themselves. So this model came together for, say, 2 months. Now, what we did was to make it easy for the employer, leverage existing resources. So you don't have to go and create something new. They use their trainers, they use the existing training modules, and it was just, even the resources that were given to the candidates for self-learning was something that already existed. So nothing new had to be created. Now, using technology to create, again, we did a job analysis. We, understood the role, the solutions, and opened it up across disabilities. Since this was virtual, candidates across the country could apply, and it was cost effective. So that's something that can certainly be very replicable and scalable. And that's what worked. Coming to what we really took away from the whole journey that we had, and these 2 years, really were an eye-opener. I think the first thing was believe in what you have, focus on your strength. What do we bring to the table? And as Enable India, we didn't know what we didn't know. All we knew was what we knew. So that's what we started with. So our own strengths. The second thing was to analyze whatever the situation was and adapt accordingly. The third thing was to create a level playing field using technology, using solutions. sometimes we think that solutions need to be, something that starts from scratch or is a huge investment. Need not be. Sometimes it's just a small tweak that can really change the way you look at things. Building partnerships and collaborations. I don't think any organization in this space can do this alone. And kudos to the kind of partners that we have, whether it be other organizations in the sector, whether it be the companies and the stakeholders that we worked with, the candidates we worked with, even our training partners who came in and supported us. So it's been a collaboration, and that's what creates impact. And customizing inclusion services, as I mentioned, one size does not fit all. And it was important to really look at what worked for a particular person, because let's be honest, what works for me may not work for you. So that's what we took away from the whole adventure. And that's my time. I hope I have kept time.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Very interesting that you show the case, success case that can use LLOTSS, like the same perspective, but in 3 different examples. For me, I may ask more about in the company perspective. How do you recruit people? Like in Thailand, we have the problem that the company said he wants this position, and many times we cannot find a person with disability with that qualification. And how do you find that?
So I think that's a problem that we come across everywhere, I guess. But what has worked for us has been, working with the stakeholder and also, trying to approach it through a selection versus a rejection approach. What I mean is, we know what the pool reality is like, and we help the company understand that as well. How can they create a level playing field for candidates coming in? So one example I could think of is working with a company called Aegis, where they, through a train and hire, identified a person who is just a 10th or a high school graduate, not a graduate, maybe a high school diploma, if you compare it. Now this person, while that the educational criteria within the company was much higher, they really liked this person's skills and what he brought to the table in terms of, his learning ability, his attitude. And that's when they went ahead and hired him. And he's been working there successfully for the past few years. So what worked in this particular story also was giving the company a chance to actually take a decision post meeting the candidate, really knowing who this person is, what are they bringing to the table, and then make that call.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. So we come to the last paper on the stage, but we still have one more presentation from Japan, which will be online. So the last paper will be on the proactive business development models by Kawasi. Yeah, it seems to be like a research paper. Yeah. Okay, take your time.
Thank you, Professor. Savardik Sangshe Kavya. So sorry if I pronounced it wrong, but my name is Kavya and I'm from India. And hope all of you are doing well. So this is a paper. So I've been an ally in the disability sector for 4 years now. So I've been in this sector and I have enjoyed every moment. So here is something that I will share what we have done, which is a case study of Enable India, where we can see how we can replicate these models. So the title of the paper is Proactive Business Development Models for Employers and Persons with Disability in India During the Pandemic, a Case Study of Enable India. So moving on to the slide. So everybody has spoken about Enable India and we need not have to introduce. But what we have to look at is creating opportunities for persons with disability. And
during the pandemic, there was good and bad, right? Like the yin and yang, there was good and bad. And we grabbed the opportunity to create opportunities for persons with disability. And how did we do that? So there are almost 13.4 million persons with disability at an employable age. Can everybody get a job? No, right? So during the pandemic, like Samara mentioned and like Anthony mentioned, people were losing jobs, people were not getting jobs, they were applying for jobs and all of this. So the right thing that we had to do is to create awareness at companies, right? There were a lot of people working from home, sitting at home. I'm sure most of us were also doing the same thing, and we did not know how to go about it. There were volunteers, company employees, and college students who came and reached out to Enable India. We had a lot of events and activities that we did so that we could create awareness about persons with disability and their stakeholders, so that we could create opportunities for persons with disability at companies. The next slide, the rationale of my paper is basically there is Enable India's wage employment cycle, where we talk about 4 stages. One is awareness, readiness, engagement, and growth. So every stage, there are opportunities that we can engage with a candidate and that we can engage with the employee as well, or an employer, right? So how do we create? First stage is to create awareness. So for today, if we go to a company and say, hire a person with disability, there'll be the first thing the person is going to say is, oh, person with disability, can he or she do a job? That's the first question. To create that level playing field and to understand the concept of disability, we have awareness activities. And also readiness. Here we work with the candidates, we work with the employees to see how they can prepare themselves to have a colleague with disability, or even for a person with disability to have a colleague without disability, building that inclusive social circles. Then engagement. There's already a person with disability. Maybe during the pandemic, people started working from home. If I have a person with vision impairment working at home, how do I include this person? Or should I fire that person? Is that the right approach? No, but you can include that person. How do you do that? And in terms of growth, everybody needs career progression, right? Be it person with or without disabilities. So this is the rationale of my paper. And there are 3 objectives that I have looked into in this paper. Is to create awareness and sensitization to build inclusive workplaces. So today, when we say, let's hire a person with vision impairment, the first question is, how will he or she see a laptop, right? There are softwares, there are solutions that people use. So creating that awareness and sensitization through different models that I will be talking about, and to build inclusive social circles for persons with and without disability during the pandemic. And I completely agree, and this was my personal journey as well. When the pandemic started, it was really difficult to communicate with people, to meet people. You were just at home, you were just meeting your family or whoever was living with you, you could not step out of the house. And for a person with disability, there's a study that says that there are 150 friends for a person without disability in a social circle, but for a person with disability, there are 15 friends in their social circle. So how do we bridge this gap? And the third objective was to create livelihood opportunities through proactive business development. Like Samara mentioned, business development, where we reach out to companies and say, provide opportunities, equal opportunities for persons with disability. But to break that barrier, break that stereotype among persons without disability or an employer, so we needed awareness opportunities. To also start with my own case study, when I joined Enable India 4 years back, and one of my colleague with vision impairment said, he opened a laptop and he opened the Excel and he started typing. And I'm like, why are you opening a laptop? How would you go about it? But he knows Excel much better than I do. He knows all the shortcut keys much better than I do. So there are solutions. Everybody has an ability and everybody has an inability. So this is what we did with the proactive business development models. So it was not something that we started new. So this team has been built since 2017 at Enable India. So we converted all the on-site activities to online activities. So I don't know if the universe conspired or it came and told us on 3rd December 2019, we did a virtual sign language workshop. Pandemic was still not there in any of the countries, but we did it, right? Because we thought we could reach more people, we could interact with more people. That was a booster dose for us to tell that we can reach out to more people during the pandemic because we had already lived, we had almost 150 people joining on International Day of Persons with Disability because we celebrate the human spirit. And second, to build diverse models to adapt virtual environment, right? So it was not easy for each one of us to just say that, hey, I'm going to work from home. Let me open a laptop. So for a person with, say, physical disability, maybe the home environment is not accessible to work from home. So how do we go about it? How does reasonable accommodation take place even while working from home? Then also reach more participants. So in India is a very diverse country. So the on-site events that we were doing, we were just reaching out to one section of the population that was in Bangalore. But that is a city in India, which I come from as well. But we reach out to more people across the country, right? We almost reach out to people across all the metropolitan cities and the major cities in the country as well because of technology, internet, and various companies across the country as well. And also bridge the gap between the employers and the candidates and creating opportunities. So we had a job readiness activity where, or a mentor buddy project where the candidate sat with the employee and said, hey, I want to build my resume. How do I go about it? This is the time for us to build our resume. Yeah, opportunities are not available, but the background work can be done, right? So that's when they started building on resumes. And who is the best person to do that? An employee, right? Because they're already at a company. And this is a twofold approach because when an employee is working with a person with disability, they'll be like, oh, this is how a person with vision impairment is using a screen reader. Then it is easier for them to understand that a person with disability is able to work independently. So then creating opportunities is much more closer, right? So the first model, we have 8 models, proactive business development models. I will go quickly for each talk about each of it. One is learning new ways of communication. So we see a sign language interpreter here. Why do we see an interpreter? To include our deaf colleagues, right? But when in India, the first event I said that we did was sign language workshops. So we had a lot of people. So that was our motivation during the pandemic. We started doing a lot of workshops where companies also started reaching out to us. We customized the workshop so that people could communicate with their colleagues or with their neighbors or someone in the society who is a person with hearing impairment. We also did a program with this company called Sign Illusion. The event name was Sign Illusion. It is sign plus inclusion, where people learned sign language and they were buddied up with a deaf person so that they could mentor the person. It was nothing related to job. It might have just been a daily thing that, hey, how did your day go? How did you go? How's your family doing? How many of us actually, in a deaf family, how many people actually ask them, how are you feeling? How are you talking? Because language is the barrier, right? So this started bridging the gap as well. And then the next one is envisioning change. So I'll give a quick example here. All of us love watching movies, but how many of us have watched an audio described movie? An audio described movie is something that explains the visuals that are on screen. So this is my favorite example when we watch Game of Thrones. The king goes from south to north, but there's only background noise and we do not know that the king has gone from south to north because there is no visuals. There's no audio description. So how does a person with vision impairment get to know that, right? So we need to have this audio description, which is the solution that is used by persons with vision impairment. So keeping this fun way of doing it so that person who are employees at companies learn how to include their persons with vision impairment by describing something on a screen. If they're sharing a presentation while working online, so that through the concept of audio description, they're also including that colleague. It will not be like, hey, I'll send you the PPT later, you use the NVDA and work on it. But how do you include your colleague during the meeting? So learning the skill of audio description and doing virtual treks so that you boost the enthusiasm of a candidate so that, they don't feel lonely at home, right? So that we include them as well. The third one is something that was the baby of COVID as well, that was inquisitive. This is INC-QUIZITIVE, which is increase your disability quotient. So we had a lot of quiz questions around disability, which had an answer, which was followed by a trivia, so that people get to know more about disability. So, when we asked people to come for events, people were coming for events. But how many people were participating? But if it's a quiz and a fun and an interactive way, people were participating, they were with us, they were listening to the trivia. So when we were giving these knowledge shots to them, it was a booster to know more about disability and awareness.
Then the fourth model is language builds culture. So even this morning, we had said that 185 countries have ratified to use the term person with disability, right? According to the UNCRPD. But till date, we still hear people saying handicapped or differently abled, specially abled, sympathizing on a person with disability. But what is the right terminology and how do you address a person with disability? And according to the RPWD Act, that's the Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016 in India, recognizes 21 disabilities. But if we can conduct a survey and we ask people how many disabilities do you know, people might just talk about the visible disabilities like a physical disability, visual impairment, or hearing impairment. But nobody speaks about something like hemophilia, which is a blood-related disability, sickle cell, which is a blood-related disability. So through language builds culture, understanding what are the 21 disabilities and how do you focus on the ability of the person and look at the person first. Today, when you see me, I don't want you to look at me as a woman because I'm in a sari, but I am Kavya, right? So all of us want to be looked at persons, and that's the same for a person with a disability as well. Then the fifth model is virtual assistive technology zone. So we used to do assistive technology zone where we had different solutions that we used to present at companies. But here we had persons with disability showcasing solutions that they use at home or that they use at a virtual workplace. And even for a person without disability was using it. We say, right, accessibility for one is accessibility for all. So today, if we have a ramp here, a person with disability or a person on a wheelchair is using it. But tomorrow, a mother who brings a child on a pram, or even if I'm wearing a sari and if I can't climb the stairs, I want to use the ramp, right? So accessibility for one is accessibility for all. And during the pandemic, we showcase solutions that are used by persons with disability. Then the sixth model is job readiness activities. So here we did a lot of activities like resume preparation, mock interview, communication skills, job reality session, like understanding a corporate world, mentoring buddy project, where employees from companies interacted with our candidates. So it was a twofold approach. The candidate understood how a corporate world functions and what are the skills that they need and how to upskill themselves. And at the same time, an employee understood how persons with disability work, and we created that level playing field. And the seventh model is awareness and sensitization workshops, where we talk about abilities and inabilities, then where we talk about the different models and approaches that we can look at creating opportunities for persons with disabilities. And this was mainly employer specific. And the final one is the celebration of the human spirit, where we celebrated like inclusive Independence Day. Like imagine how many of us even signed the anthem. So in Indian national anthem is being signed as well, right? So how many of us signed the anthem? Celebrating International Day of Persons with Disability, or celebrating International Week of the Deaf, Blindness Awareness Month, so that, you know, we dedicate, and people need to be celebrated, right? Just because it's a person with disability, we do not say, sympathize on the person. Everybody needs to be celebrated. And this is our tagline of Enable India as well. So we celebrate the human spirit. So I'll quickly talk what is the outcome of doing all, focusing on all these models from three different stakeholder perspective. One is an employee participant. Who is an employee participant? Somebody who's working at a company. So first they gain awareness by interacting and understanding about disability. They become an inclusive team player. Tomorrow, when they have a person with disability at their company, it is not like, hey, how do I speak to a person who's deaf? Do I ask them a question? Do I go and approach them? How do I do this? But they've attended a sign language workshop. Now people want to interact with a person with disability and being solution oriented. So it's not like, oh, a person with vision impairment is coming, I'll hold the person's cane or I'll hold the person's hand. People live a dignified life. So being solution oriented and understanding that, creating a level playing field between persons with and without disability, definitely building inclusive social circles because persons with disability and without disability get to interact with different pools, and opening conversations around disability and creating opportunities. Second, what is in it for a person with disability? That is outcome 2, upskilling livelihood. Like through job readiness activities, model 7 that we spoke about, how they can upskill their livelihood so that when job opportunities are there, they can apply and they need not wait to, upskill themselves. Understanding the corporate world by having the first-time engagement, first-hand experience talking to an employee participant, exploring career opportunities. Maybe the person thought, I'm only good at, skill A. Maybe they attended a mock interview session. They interacted with an employee participant and the employee participant said, hey, you know what, you're good at this as well. Why don't you apply for more opportunities? So you're creating more opportunities. and improving the quality of life of a person as well, right? Because of the pandemic and all of us did not have a very good quality of life. So through these models, quality of life also improved. And what is in it for an organization? Because a company is investing into it. They have sparks and they are sending their employee participants to gain awareness. So one is opening conversations around disability. They have at least 100 people, 200 people from their organization attending our events. So people start talking about it. It's a domino effect, right? So one person attends the event, they go talk about it on their social media pages, or they go talk about it to their family, their friends, or someone at their company itself. So we are opening conversations not only at the organization, but at different organizations. Because today, if I am attending an event and if my brother is attending that event, so he will go speak about it in his company. So there's a domino effect. Then ability to hire a specific talent pool. So they know their work. If they have attended a sign language workshop, they know how a deaf awareness is. They know about the deaf culture and how to hire persons with disability as well. And creating a diverse culture, because DEI, that is diversity, equity, and inclusion, is focused in every company, right? So creating that diverse pool and culture is something that we look at. And through these models, that is also one of the outcomes that we have seen. And this is just a testimonial. I will quickly summarize about how a person, an employee participant from one of the major MNC joined an event. He assisted a person with neurodevelopmental disability to create a self-advocacy tool. So based on that, he gained awareness on neurodevelopmental disabilities. At the same time, understood how a person with neurodevelopmental disability can live a dignified life, uses different solutions to live that dignified life, and also has the skills to be employed at an organization as well. And at the same time, the candidate understood what is the importance of having a self-advocacy tool, and having that self-advocacy tool, how can I present myself at a company and how it would benefit the person as well. So this is the testimonial that I have from one of the models, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This, I think, fulfill our concern about raising awareness, sensitization. And can I ask that, can we see some examples somewhere, like Facebook Live or YouTube? Do you have some media like that to share?
Yes,
for
so you
our-
can follow us on Enable India Facebook and social media pages. So we have certain events that are live as well. Then we can also, yes. And also our LinkedIn, which is a social media page. So we do post about our events and activities so that people can join that activity. And if we go live as well, people can come and see that event as well. So so like an inclusive Independence Day, we had it on Zoom and on Facebook Live. So because we have a lot of followers on Facebook Live as well, and Instagram and various social media pages.
Good. We will follow that. And may I ask another question about the digital divide, about the internet access and the smartphone, or how do disabled people like access the computer?
Yeah, so there are some of our candidates who use their phones to join these events, or there are people who go to cyber centers and join our events, or they borrow laptop from their friends so that, you know, if the phone connectivity is not there. There are people who also travel from the remote villages, come to the city center, join these events, or prepare their resumes and everything and go back as well. So these are some of the case studies that we have seen.
How about the internet condition? How about in the rural area? Do they have the internet?
It's not that great in the rural areas, but people still manage, and you know, it is progressing as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Okay, thank you very much for the last presentation from the stage. But however, we still have two presentations on online. Actually, the last one will be the presentation online from Japan. But we missed the first presentation from India, but now he is online. So may I have to apologize the Japanese presenter. Let me come back to the first presentation from India, and then the Japanese presentation will be the last one. Is that okay? I look at the agenda of in the end of this presentation. There is no agenda, so we have some time for presentation. That will be a little bit late. So I think we better start with the presentation from India, from Dr. Lama. Dr. Lama, are you ready to present your paper? Okay, so let's start, Dr. Lama.
Hello.
Okay, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for delay. We are working for the grassroots organization in Tamil Nadu. Do you know? Do you have? Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Hello. Hello. Your voice is very clear. So please go on. Hello. Dr. Lama, can you speak? Can you present your presentation?
No.
So is this a problem of ego's voice? Dr. Lama, can you speak more? We try to solve your problem, the ego. Hello.
Dr. Rama, I think your headphone have a problem. Could you please use your microphone on your mobile phone on laptop?
Hello, Dr. Lama. Actually, we test yesterday. Is have any problems? Is have no any problems from Rama, but I don't know why. This is unexpected problems always happening during our session. Yeah, this is a part of the pandemic. Hello. Can you say something, Dr. Lama?
Hello?
Okay, we can hear you clearly.
Rama sir, கேக்குறதா? I'm just speaking to him in Tamil so that he can hear us clearly. Rama sir, this is Kavya. உங்களுக்கு கேக்குறதா நாங்க பேசுறது? Sir, நீங்க பேசுறது கேக்கல. Hello, sir, கேக்குறதா?
Hello?
sir, கேக்குறதா?
நீங்க பேசுறது கேக்குது.
Sir, you can start your presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sinam is the grassroots organization in Tamil Nadu. We are working for the last 36 years in the field of disability. Now we have present the job and employment of people with disabilities during the COVID-19 epidemic and disaster. Next. Next. This is the promoting employment through the computer application and herbal sanitation training for person with disabilities. This is supported by the Workability Asia and Redmits Foundation for the PWDs. We are organizing the rural youth person with disabilities in our area in Tandramat block. The 50 youth we have selected in this program. Next. The inauguration function is member of Legislative Assembly member Mr. MP Giri also inaugurated in this program. Next. We are the implementation model is the first of all we identification the village and the people's need assessment camp. Need assessment camp consists of one doctor, one physiotherapist, special educated, and psychiatry. That consists of 4 members. The need assessment conduct. We have the conduct the identification of the person with disabilities and formation of special self-help groups consist of 6 to 12 members. And also we will give the capacity building training, linkage with the banks, other institutions. Then we will start the income generation activities and marketing support, the finally sustainable livelihood for the person with disabilities. Next. We gave survey our in area for the disabilities face the problem. Intolerance, lack of understanding, mobility issues due to their deformities, poverty, waiting too long for essential care, neglected by others, even by the family members, need for support person to accompany due to the travel. Next. We have identified the 2,156 people with disabilities. We have arranged to get the government ID cards and also the 47 village poverty reduction committees formed, 144 special self-help groups formed, helped to 21 special groups to receive the group loans. And a revolving loan was given by 112 person with disabilities. Next. The impact of the COVID-19 people with disabilities, their families, caregivers faced more challenge situation due to the declared lockdown. Usual routine works affected and created financial and health loss. They lost their employment and livelihood options. They lose their employment and livelihood options and also lose their social support due to the isolation and elevation from the society. Next. Purpose of study, dissemination of the success stories of PWDs. Cause, effect, and short period of skill training gained employment. Loss of the employment, loss of the livelihood is quickly replaced by the new skill training. Conduct market study and decide about the type of the skill. Pilot study model can be scaled up and replicable. Next. Market study findings. Good employment scope for the computer operation skill training due to the in our India goods and service tax calculation, tally software for the calculation of business statistics, use of the internet and business corresponds, need for the herbal sanitizer in the low price of the locally available for the market. Next. The course details. We have the course detail. We have the prepare. During the training is 2 months. Skill impaired, computer application preparation and herbal sanitation, hand sanitizer. Curriculum of computer application. Next, introduction of the computer, MS Word, MS PowerPoint, and also internet, electronic mail, GST calculation, tally, business correspondence, etc. Good. Next. How to selection of the trainings. People with disabilities, interest to learn new skills, regularity to attendance, involvement of the family members, spirit of the entrepreneurship, desire of business expansion, desire of provide the additional employment for the people with disabilities. Those are things of selection of for the trainers. Next. This is the training center for the person with disabilities. Next. During the COVID-19, relief for the PWDs. We gave the dry ration distribution, rice, dal, cooking, oil, kitchen, and sugar, green gram, black pepper, and everything. Personal product, equipment, face mask, hand sanitizer, hand washing soap, bathing, immunity booster, Kabasura Kudiner in Tamil. This is the one of the herbal drinks. That is, we will give the for the person with disabilities in our area. Next. Those are the give the dry ration in our area. Next. Next, the curriculum of the hand sanitizer, selection of the ingredients like neem oil, ginger, turmeric powder, rose water, aloe vera, tulasi, adadoda. Those are the medicinal plants in our area. We will prepare and also the hand sanitizer. Method packing, economic is very low, and marketing is easily assess the rural peoples, and also we will give the distribution the person with disabilities. Next.
ராமா சார், இங்க ஜத்துரங்க சொல்றாங்க நீங்க சம்மரைஸ் பண்ணணுமா, டைம் கொஞ்சம் கம்மி இருக்கா? So
Right, right, okay. This is the
Because
photos for sales and hand sanitizer and also distribute. Next. This is a selection of 50 trainers with the 4 time of period, 2 months, start September to April. The women and men, men, total 50 members. Next. They now employ, they are linkage and also the employment opportunity. Out of 50 members, the 46 members, 44 members that join the employment. Other only the 6 members, they are waiting for the job and also self-employment. Next. We give the service for the facilitation, linkage with the service. Who are the service, the community-based organization, local groups, and through community audience, through SH members. Next. Then we get the service, the certificate. After the complete the course, we give the certificate to the disabilities. Next. Impact of the skill training, 88% are self-employed or employed. 12% are waiting for the bank loan, starting the employment venture. Income earning per month, 9,000 to 15,000 per month. Improved the quality life. Dependency rate of PWs decline. Increase the self-respect and self-esteem. Income food security is achieved. Next. Those are the self-employment or the employed working the some staff. Next. Finding market-driven short duration self leads to the employability. More computer training people needed to the commercial corporate sector. GST requires computer training people. JLG means joint livelihood required for the bank loan. Basic computer skill, upgrade regular work. Cost effective, airable and sensitive, very affordable. Next. Next. Those are the distribution aids PAD. Next. Conclusion of the recommendation, the employment can be paid employment and self-employment. Skill training suitable for both men and women. Simple, learnable skill training with the PWD. File a study required before the starting the activities. Case studies of success stories motivate people with disabilities. Next. So one video there. The success story. If possible, you will play that. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lama.
I think the paper, you can follow the details in the paper. And the interesting point is about the market research that you did before making the training curriculum. Because it involved family member to come as part of the training and have the expectation that the family members will be in the production and distribution of hand sanitizer. So it made me realize that the family and people with disabilities like stay together in the family and help each other for make a living.
Yes, the family member is cooperative and also helpful to the person with disability people. They are encouraged the program. So we are running successfully in the program.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have to go to,
Thank you very much for
I go to the last presentation from Japan. I'm sorry for Mr. Hiroshi Masaka for your waiting, for keep your waiting. So you have about 10 minutes for presentation. Please make your time. Okay.
はい、ありがとうございます。ビデオというか、パワーポイント、出ましたね。はい。はい。それでは、私は、京都府北部の町、綾部市にある作業所、友の家で、施設長をしています、正岡弘と言います。よろしくお願いします。次、お願いします。パワーポイント動きますかね。はい。友の家は、京都市から北へ電車で1時間ほど離れた町にあり、マクドナルドが一つしかない自然豊かな町です。ちなみにグンゼという日本で一番有名な、下着メーカーの発祥地です。で、今映っているのは、外観ですね。友の家の外観、このようになってます。昨年4月に新築で移転をしました。はい。次、お願いします。友の家ですが、友の家は1999年の、設立以来、給料と障害基礎年金で一人暮らしができるような、そんな仕事をしよう。そのためには、1ヶ月に4万円の給料を目指そうと取り組んできました。また、障害があるからを理由に仕事の手抜きをしたり、多めに見てもらったりするのではなくて、真似事ではないプロとしての仕事をしようと妥協なく今も取り組んでいます。はい、これは、利用者の皆さんですね。はい。次は。はい、パワーポイントがちょっと戻りますかね。これなんでこんなのとかな。いったいった。はい。友で通所する人の高齢化が顕著になっています。これ、パワーポが、ここですね。はい。3分の1の方が60歳以上で、もう2割の方、20% の方が65歳以上となっており、今まで通りバリバリ働くというよりも、違った形の就労を模索する必要があります。はい、次です。友の家では、それぞれ3つの作業のグループに分かれて働いています。一つはメンテナンス、いわゆる掃除の作業です。トイレ掃除など人の嫌がる仕事こそ人の役に立っている実感が持てると、言われています。はい。次、お願いします。2つ目はお弁当の仕事です。行き過ぎましたね。はい。お弁当の仕事です。一人暮らしの老人のお宅にも配達し、安否確認を行ったりもします。はい。次。 はい、昨年4月、コロナ禍の中オープンしたカフェです。今回の報告のメインとなる部分となります。はい。次です。お願いします。日本の障害者福祉には、65歳問題というものがあります。パワーポイントを見ていただいた通りですが、65歳になると、障害福祉サービスよりも介護保険サービスの方を、国が決めた枠組みとして優先されます。はい。次、お願いします。はい。また、介護保険に変わると、若い時には障害がなかったけど、高齢化とともに障害を持つようになった人と同じ扱いになり、サービスの量が減ったり、新たに費用負担が発生したりする場合もあります。高齢化とともに障害を持つようになった人と若い時から障害があった人では経済的な基盤が大きく異なるので、若い頃から障害があった人にとっては介護保険の利用料は大きな負担になり、日本では障害のある人が原告になり裁判も戦われています。はい、次お願いします。調査連が行った少し古い調査ですが、介護保険移行に伴い、86% の人に新たな利用料の負担が生じています。本来なら、どちらのサービスを使うかは、本人が選べる仕組みが必要なのです。はい、次お願いします。そんな65歳問題を抱えた日本で、65歳を過ぎてもなお、頑張って働きたいという利用者の皆さんの思いと、それに応えようとしている実践の報告をいたします。はい、お願いします。夏子さんです。はい。うつ病の73歳の方です。最近一番親しい友人が亡くなったり、自分も転倒して骨折したりと気弱になっています。もうあかんわ、年やからやめろって言うてえなと話します。本心はこれからの生活が心配。友の家で働いていると友達もいるし、相談もできるので安心、されています。はい。次です。はい。あやこさん、80歳です。60歳まで、自宅で農業のお手伝いをして過ごされていました。友の家には、仕事に来ているという目的がはっきり持てています。現在、グループホームで生活をされています。だいぶ耳が聞こえづらくなっています。はい。次の方です。次、この方は大島さんです。リウマチなどいろいろと病気が出てきました。まだまだ働ける力はありますが、過度に不安があったり、老人施設にいつ入ろうかと言いながらも、やっぱり今でも仕事が好きなようです。はい。お次の方です。 はい、すみこさんです。友の家の最高齢の方で83歳になられます。はい、唯一、老人デイサービスにも通われています。そこで、給料袋を見せびらかし、私まだ働いて給料もらってますと話し、みんなに褒めてもらうのが楽しいようです。はい。次の方です。和彦さん、最近、がんの手術を、された67歳の方です。新しくシェアハウスにも引っ越しをされ、ちょっと精神的に不安定になってしまいましたが、わし、首かと言いながら、それでもやっぱり働きたいと7月から再通所することとなりました。はい、次の方です。川根さん、74歳です。40代で、脳梗塞を患い、右側が少し動きにくいです。それでも、前向きに自分でやると手を貸そうとする仲間に大きな声で言われます。最近は手順など度忘れすることも増えましたが、コーヒーを入れたり、新しい作業に挑戦したりしています。はい、次です。もう一つ、はい、これです。助っ人の忍さんです。普段は弁当作りのエース格の方です。生地作りなど、高齢の仲間の方には少しハードルの高い作業には、助っ人としてお手伝いをしてくれている忍さんです。はい、次です。カフェで働く仲間の皆さん、6人と1人の助っ人ですが、どうあれ、やっぱりまだ働きたいという思いが強いです。動ける間は友の家に通いたいというのがどうやら本音のようです。はい、次お願いします。はい。そんな中ですが、65歳になったから、老人施設へという単純なもんではありません。体は衰えてきても、まだ働きたいという本人の強い思いに応えるべく、制度を整える必要があります。日本では、65歳を境に、障害者と高齢者が使える制度を分けようとしていますが、障害者権利条約では、年齢で障害者と高齢者を分けるようなことはありません。やはり、本人が選択し、決定する、選べるような枠組みが必要なのだろうと、痛感するところです。はい。次お願いします。はい。最後になりますが、高齢者の働くということに言えば、さまざまな不安や衰えを感じながらも、働きたいという意欲がある障害者の皆さんには、ぜひ、自身の回復の場として、また、チャレンジの機会が持てる場として、高齢の仲間が働けるカフェが一助となるよう、そんな友の家の運営を継続していきたいと思っております。はい、以上です。ご清聴ありがとうございました。
So I Thank you for the Tomo's home experience. I find it's very inspiring stories from the presentation and eye-opening for us to the feeling and needs of older people with disabilities, because they get discriminated because of disability and of age, like two discrimination type. And you pick up this point and show us that this is the reality that happened. Like now in our society, we do not go to that group yet. Older people with disabilities most of the time stay in home, like homebound. So this will inspire to many group of people. And also leading us to get closer look to the gap of welfare policy, even in Japan. I heard about this, but this time is in detail. Give me more details. And maybe example for us that we going into the aging society. I would like to ask, are there advocacy groups of older people with disabilities themselves? Or how is the movement like?
Hi. もしかして僕に質問でしたか？
Are there advocacy groups for older person with disability?
いや、特にはないと思ってますが、65歳のアドボカシーグループは特別ないんではないんですかね。はい、と思ってます。
Thank you. So I guess that advocacy group of people with disabilities will play a big role in this subject. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the last presentation online from Japan. Before I give back the microphone to our MC, let me say a little bit a few words for the presenter on the stage. I would like to thank everyone a lot for your presentation. Last night I heard that you came from India, and you intend to present your presentation on site. This is great. Is it very, very great? So even we try to solve the problem with the COVID-19 pandemic by using the hybrid approach on site and online, but we still have some problems that we have to learn from our experience, this experience. However, for the first presentation, the first day, so I very appreciate everyone, every presentation. You try to make your the best, you try your best for presentation. I'm very, very appreciate. So thank you for all participants or the audience. You are very patient to listen to our presentation. Then last but not least is I may apologize if I give some pensions or I try to manage, actually, I try to manage the time But however, we still have, we still late a little bit. We are lucky that we have no activity at the end of the day. So, however, you still have time to have a sightseeing in our night beach in Pattaya. So, I hope everyone, foreigners and including Thai people, if you have a time, you can go to the sightseeing in the beach, Pattaya Beach, this evening. However, we still have the session tomorrow. The presentation for core paper will be tomorrow once again in the afternoon. So see you tomorrow. So may I give the microphone to our MC. Thank you very much. And please give a big hand for the presenter on the stage.
Thank you, Professor, Associate Professor Dr. Jadurong Bunjarat Sunthorn, and all the 7 panelists for your fruitful, lively, vibrant, and useful discussions. So please give them a big round of applause again.